Okay, here we are finally to make our turkey. This is our turkey. I have got Inselbright in here. So he's a trivet. He's our Thanksgiving Day trivet. And I have already drawn all the circles out. You guys know how to do that. We've done it on all of our other videos when we made our acorn and the witch and the scarecrow and the whatever else we've made, pumpkins. We all used our 10-inch cake board. Now you can get these cake boards from Walmart. You can get these cake boards from Hobby Lobby, from Michael's, from any place that carries Wilton stuff. They will have a selection of different sizes of cake boards, so you can get like a variety pack. Or you could get a compass. If you get a compass, they're like, I think they're $4 from Staples or Office Depot, Office Max, whoever you've got, and then draw your different size circles. I already have my circles drawn. So the tail is a 14-inch circle, and I've cut it in half. So I already used half of it. We're going to use the other half now. The body is a 10-inch circle, and I used one of those, what are those red cups called? Solo cups? I used a solo cup to do the head. So that's about a 5-inch circle. So the very first thing we're going to do with all three pieces is we're going to come in here and we're going to stitch. We're going to tell my machine what foot it has on because I have switched feet on this machine 900 times today. Okay. First thing you're going to do is you're going to stitch your Inselbright on the line down to your backing fabric. If you got a kit from us, your backing fabric is this kind of mottled fall color piece of fabric that you got. So the reason that we're doing this is twofold. First of all, it secures your backing so your backing doesn't turn up on you. But second of all, it gives you a stitch line to follow when we go to trim, when we've got all of our strips sewn down. Okay, so that's the body. Now we're going to do the head. And again, I am just sewing on that stitch line, or my drawn line. Now we got our head done. And this is, so I didn't waste my Inselbright, this is the other half of my 14-inch circle for my tail. Shake your tail feathers. And then I will go ahead and stitch along this outside edge too, just to make sure I get that. Okay. You're going to use 2-inch strips. So these are my 2-inch strips of fabric to make my pieced part. I'm going to use my reds only in the tail. So I just have the browns and golds in the body, and I'm going to use my reds, oranges, and golds up in the tail to give him a little more color. So I'm going to kind of sort my pieces out. I'm going to use a little bit of this in here, and these are just going to be tail feather colors up in here. Okay, when you go to do the tail feather, you don't want to start on one side and work your way over, because if you do, it's going to look off kilter. You want to try to end up with the same size pieces on the outside edges on both sides. So if you fold this so that your stitch lines up, and then kind of just make a little crease, you want to center your first strip right on top of that crease. So I'm going to center that right there, and I can go ahead and trim that one off. And again, I want to make sure that's about centered on that so that I end up Otherwise it looks like he's not lined up right. And then we'll put our next piece on.
So this is quilt as you go.
Quilt as you go. And I think my needle's not threaded. And it's not. So I think I'll thread my needle because that helps with sewing. Get in there. There we go. It always helps to have your needle threaded. Okay, and you go ahead and stitch right off the piece. And then we'll trim that down. And if I had a pair of scissors that were actually big enough to use, that would be helpful here. Use these. Let's see. And then we'll finger press that down. And then I'll add one on the other side of him. So I'm going to flip back and forth just to keep everything even. Ooh, that's the same piece. I don't want to use that one. I'll use this one. We already filmed a pretty big class earlier today, which is why we got stuff everywhere. Everywhere. Okay. Maybe I'm going to put a piece of this fabric that matches the backing down. And in the interest of being even, because I like things to be even, I'm going to put that same fabric over there. Okay, the Insulbright we're using, this gives you the benefit of being able to put hot or cold stuff down on this and not mess up your table. Keep in mind you cannot use Insulbright in the microwave because it's got that metallic stuff in it. Not that you would microwave your turkey, but on the off chance. Here, we'll put this one again over here. Ouch. Did you break something?
My elbow.
Okay. Almost done. I have to ship those, so don't break those.
They look like they need ice cream and hot fudge.
Oh, ice cream and hot fudge would be good. Although it's kind of cold for that.
Yeah.
Let's see, let's finish up with this one. Although it may not finish the whole thing, I don't know. Oh, the fuzz on this machine. I will catch that with the binding. I'm not going to add another piece to that. That would be silly.
Yes. I think it's right. It looks orange. Yeah, it looks very orange.
Okay. That one, oh shoot. See, I didn't get it lined up exactly right because I have just a smidge more available on this side. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna bring that in a little bit, just so I end up even on both sides. So I need to remember. Okay, so I've got this all stitched out. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn it over, and I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna re-stitch over my previous stitch line. So that's why we did that first stitch to begin with, was so that we would know where to stitch our pieced top so that we could cut it out. I'm coming in a little bit on this outside edge. Oh, come on. And I didn't do the end, so I'm going to do the end again, just to make sure I get all that. Okay, now we're gonna take our good pair of scissors. I'm using Kai. I like these Kai scissors. These are really nice. They feel good in the hand. I had somebody ask me why I was using left-handed scissors. These are not left-handed scissors.
Mm-mm.
So I don't know if it was their
Maybe their
camera.
Right, it might have switched it around.
But then wouldn't it have looked like I was using my left hand?
I would think it would, but
I don't know. It's weird. These are not left-handed scissors. So I'm not using left-handed scissors.
I do think Kai has left-handed scissors.
Oh, they do, yes. Definitely. These aren't them. Okay, so I'm trimming really close, like 1/8 of an inch off of my stitch line. So really close to that stitch line, like so. And that gives me my tail. And then I've got my binding over here. So I'm gonna go ahead and bind this. So I'm going to put my 2 1/4 inch binding. I did not do bias binding. You could do bias binding if you want to. I did not. I'm going to do my corners like you normally do your corners. So I folded my edge. I'm coming in here. And I'm just going to hold this in place with my fingers and ease it around the curves. Corner, and then I'm going to overlap those two pieces and stitch them down. So I'm doing my corner like normal, so your 45-degree angle, and then turn it at a 90-degree, and then I'm going to cut like so, and I'm going to turn this under and tuck this in it. And just sew that down. Okay. Then I'm going to come over to my iron. And I'm going to press this all out.
When you're doing a quilt, do you always press your binding out when you're...
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, because otherwise...
It makes it so much easier.
Yes, it makes it a ton easier. So I'm just going to flip this over. Now, I did this with 2.5-inch binding, and it was too much. You had this big flange on the back. I'm going to flip this over, and I'm just going to stitch in the ditch on the back. And that'll keep my binding secured on the back. So I will just kind of roll that under. And again, stitch in the ditch all the way around. I did try it with a 2-inch, and it was not enough. I did my corner fold, caught that up in there, and now I'm coming around the corner. Okay, and then I'm going to come to this corner again, so I'm doing my miter in the corner and just getting that down ahead of time. Get that all pulled under there, and whoops, I stuck. There we go. Coming around. Okay, then that finishes him off, and then he looks like that on the back. So you can imagine, this is 2 1/4. You can imagine how much of this would have been hanging over if I'd done 2 1/2. So quite a bit. And 2, sometimes you would miss a piece on 2. On 2 1/4, I've caught it all the way around. Okay, so that's his back, or his tail feathers. And see how I've got matching pieces on the 2 sides? That's why you want to start in the middle. Okay, so now we have to make the body piece. I'm going to do the exact same thing I just did with that on the body piece, only I'm going to use most of my brown pieces. And then I'm just going to put a solid piece of brown on this one, or strips of brown on this one. That's it. Okay, you don't have to watch me do that. We're going to pause on this. I will finish that, and we'll be right back.
Just push this.
Mm-hmm. We're going? Mm-hmm. Okay, we're going. Okay, so here we go. So I made, this is the body with the mostly browns, and then here's his tail. So now I'm going to take this, and I'm not going to line it up like this because I think that's weird looking where it all goes straight. I'm going to put him kind of at offset like that. And you're just going to kind of line him up where it looks good. Flip it over and come in and stitch right, well, I'm not going to flip it over because I have the wrong size bobbin thread color in, so I'm going to do it from this side. Okay, I'm going to stitch right straight across in that binding.
So you've already bound
Yeah.
the circle,
Yeah,
and you bound the head.
yeah. Well, I'm going to talk about how I bound the head. Now I'm going to go around the top of the circle and attach the whole thing. So I'm stitching in the ditch just like I put the binding on. I'm going around, stitching him in the ditch again to attach him to the tail. Okay, so that's on. Now on the head is so small that even with bias binding, that would have been a pain in the tuchus. So what I did was I took a little bit of Soline glue and just put some glue underneath there and pulled this around, and I'm going to top stitch this into place. Before I do that, I want to make his whatever you call this thing,
Waddle.
waddle. So I cut out just what that looks like. So like a droopy thing. And I'm actually going to zigzag around that. I have Insulbrite in it. And I put all of the feet away. This will work. Put all the feet away, so I had to go dig my feet. Okay, so I'm going to do a fairly tight zigzag around there. I did use a piece of Insulbrite. I tried it out with just 2 pieces of fabric, and it was so wimpy. It didn't have any body at all. It has a little bit of body if you use the Insulbrite. Okay, and then I'm going to take my scissors and just cut around that. And yes, there will be Insulbrite showing. Ask me if I care.
Do you care?
I do not care. There's a whole Facebook group for that now.
There is.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
I haven't joined it yet. I've seen some of their posts, but I haven't joined it yet. I should join it. Because I do not care. Okay, so there's my little, what was this again?
Waddle.
There's my waddle. Okay. So I'm going to put the head where I want it. And about like that. And then the little waddle thingy will go down here. And I'm going to, whoops. I'm going to put my regular foot back on, which is my 1/4 inch foot I use for pretty much everything.
I do too.
It's a very useful foot. All right, and now I'm going to stitch this all the way around. And I'm doing it in the ditch. Of that binding.
And if that really bothered them, the white, you could use a
Marker.
and
Yeah.
color it in.
Yep, you sure could. Which is exactly what Patrick Lowe's does. I think this one, I cut it out first and then zigzagged it. This one I cut it out second, so. Yeah, it probably would look better if I'd have cut it out first and then zigzagged it. Anyway, okay, so now that's attached, and now I have, he looks like he's sticking his tongue out. Okay, now I've got on Steam-a-Seam, I just cut a little triangle out of orange. And my little triangle of orange is going to be his nose, or his beak, I guess. And then I've got just 2 little black circles for his eyeballs. And you can play with those until you get them right where you like them. That's not where I like that.
But the nice part of Steam-a-Seam is it's repositionable until you press it.
Yeah, You can move it around till your heart's content. That's better. Like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe he's there. Okay. And then we'll press that down. And I should be using steam. That's why it's called steam and seam. And poof, there we go. We got a Twinkie. So, turkey, turkey, turkey.
Cute.
Fun for your table for Thanksgiving. Easy peasy. Half of a 14-inch circle, a 10-inch circle, and like a 6-inch circle. That's all you need. And off you go to the races. Okay, that's it.